Welcome to BS3 Radio Live. Well, it is official. The LA Lakers have officially won the NBA championship. Let me add Ty Mack in there. What's going on?
What's up, good brother, man? An anticlimactic game, man. It's anticlimactic.
Okay, cool.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. That was my end.
Yeah, man. It was man, it was bad, man. It was bad. It was bad.
Hey, to say the least, man. LA came in here strong. They came in here, full force and ready, man. You could clearly see at the beginning of the game just how ready they were and how they were ready to end this thing. Like they weren't playing around at all tonight.
Yeah, I mean they definitely came out with just a sense of urgency. They looked like they had fresh legs. They came out just firing all cylinders. I mean, Rondo started off the game like 6 of 6. Everybody was shooting the ball well, with the exception of Danny Green. Danny Green still couldn't find his jump shot. But I mean, we expected this, right? Like,
right. Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, what happens is, I mean, just the better team eventually wins. Miami was behind the 8 ball, and they stole a couple games. And as I said on Friday, I was like, man, I hope that they could, come in today and just be competitive. I was like, be competitive, make it a good game, and they couldn't do that. Like I said, they ran out of gas. It was over.
Yeah.
And
congratulations, Taryn. The Lakers are now NBA champs. AD gets one. Rondo gets his. What's this? Rondo's second. And LeBron gets his fourth. So, it's a good day. It's a good day if you're a Lakers fan.
Yeah, and you got to get him congrats. Like I said, I thought, I thought this was a series that can go 6-7, but only if Miami was healthy. And they like I said, they didn't have enough. And they could hold. Overall, I feel like you could hold your head up in regards to the series. But I know tonight they're probably like kicking themselves. That was a terrible way to go out. You don't want to go out like that. It was, like I said, it was anticlimactic. It reminded me of when 2004, I believe, when the Lakers got blown out by the Pistons in the game in that last game. And that's kind of how it was. It was just a feeling of just like, we're defeated. Like they looked like they were defeated by halftime. And like I said, LeBron just kind of rolled off. He had an easy night tonight. He played a lot of minutes, but like I said, you saw that instinct. You saw that killer instinct. Game 5, right. You saw the killer instinct too, and they couldn't finish it off. Right. But tonight you saw that killer instinct. LeBron taking a minute break, 2-minute breaks, jumping back in the game. They're up by 30. He's still in. He's like, we're going to make sure that we end this tonight. It's over.
Yeah. So yeah, and AD too. I mean, AD was playing. He wanted to play every minute. It looked like he was ready to put in whatever he had to. He played 35 minutes. LeBron played 41. KCP again with 17.
That's your dude, the dude you love to hate.
I can't hate no more. I can't hate no more on KCP. Man, shout out to my uncle. My uncle Clinton tuned in. He said Game 5 pokes the bear. 6 was super focused effort. Yeah, they were laser focused. They were not playing around tonight. This wasn't let's see what's going to happen. They wanted this win. They wanted it more. And at the end of the day, even with Dragic playing, when I seen the news of Dragic playing, I was like, we may have more of a competitive game. But obviously, Dragic wasn't at 100%. I mean, you can't be surprised. The dude was out for so long, and you could see that he wasn't truly himself. Let me see, what did he have in tonight's game? But yeah, I would say though, the Heat shouldn't be too far down on themselves. I mean, who counted on them to be in the finals? Not a lot of people. They did make it to the finals.
My dark horse pick.
Yeah, you and every Miami fan was pretty much the people. But I think there's no such thing as a moral victory. But this was a hard fight, and they fought the entire series. Let me see. Trying to get to the stat. Dragic had 5. He played 19 minutes. He came off the bench.
Yeah, and as I said, when I saw the news of Dragic playing tonight, I was just like, can he play defense? That is going to be the question. Can he move? He couldn't move. I mean, you look at the way he was playing, he really couldn't move out there. He wasn't attacking the rim. Like I said, things that made Dragic so important to that team, he really couldn't do. So it was one of them things where it was like an emotional boost, right? It was supposed to be like an emotional boost, like, oh, we're getting our guy back, etc. Right. Except that ain't really happened. The emotional boost never kicked in. That adrenaline never started pumping for them. And like I said, the Lakers made the switch to Caruso, took out Dwight Howard, and they just really just pummeled them in the paint, right? And so I had said this early in the series, so I was just like, you know what, like, this is that series where you need bigs, right? We talk about not having bigs, or like how the NBA is sort of like trying to go with this tweener forward center, the guy who can like step out, etc. But at the end of the day, when you play teams who got bigs, you need bigs to rebound. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't have it. I mean, Bam, great player. He's going to be a really, really good player. He's showing himself to be a good player right now, but he can't stop Anthony Davis. He can't stop Anthony Davis. He can't out-rebound Anthony Davis. He can't keep Anthony Davis off the blocks. He can't guard Anthony Davis on the perimeter. He is in no man's land. It is cookies, right? It is mouse in the house, right? Like, there's nothing he can do. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Dwight Howard. There's nothing you can do with Dwight Howard. There's nothing you can do with JaVale. Like, they have size. That is one thing. I don't care who you are. You cannot teach size, man. You know what I'm saying? So, that seeing that is actually good for the rest of the league too, right? Because now, by seeing those bigs out there, it brings back the importance of having a legit center, right? Somebody who can get out there, who can rebound, who can protect the rim, right? And having that versatility too, but really somebody who can protect the rim and somebody who can rebound. You need that. And like I said, Miami got killed on the boards tonight. They got killed. So we'll see next year how they adjust. I said that, Miami got their year early. He got their year early. It reminds me of OKC. So it reminds me of the year OKC made it to the finals. If anybody remembers that, I don't think anybody picked OKC to get to the finals. OKC swept through. They swept through the West. Got to the finals against Miami and LeBron, and they got beat. And then that next year, they dismantled the team almost, right? So they got rid of Harden, and things like that. And it took them some years. Matter of fact, they never made it back to a finals. So let's see what Miami does coming off this finals. Let's see if they keep this together, and continue to build, right? They just need to add a couple more pieces. But they're there. They got some good players there. So
Right. What's up, Courtney? Courtney jumping on. Lakers are the 2020 NBA champs. Blowout win.
Good. Yeah, what's good? What's good, everyone? What's good, Tyon and Ben?
What's up, brother?
Up? I'm good. Just got done watching the celebration of the Lakers. I like watching the celebration, regardless of the team. It's like, I like to watch it. So, but man, the Lakers did it. They took care of business. they took care of business like they said they were going to do. And right from the start, you could just tell like how locked in they were. And they jumped on Miami quickly, early, and finished them. So props to the Lakers for getting this bubble championship.
Yeah, one of the weirdest championships ever, the longest NBA season ever. Let me give a shout out to Overton Claiborne. He was on Late Night with BS3 last night. He says the energy was all on the Lakers side. The small stuff don't win. And he said barbecue chicken, probably in response to you, Tyon. The Lakers need to give AD an extension, lock him up long term, says Taryn. I agree with that. AD was laser focused tonight. And whatever injury he had didn't matter. This game, you couldn't even tell he was dealing with any type of injury and with his Achilles or anything. Before we talk more about this game, I gotta say, get well, Dak. If anybody's seen the Cowboys game, if you've seen a highlight, good Lord. As soon as I seen it, I was like, please tell me that's not what I just saw. And then you see him lifting up his ankle or his leg, trying to hold it up. And then from there on, you knew it was a bad injury. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. Dak, get well soon. All of us, all the fans, anybody that watches football, we're gonna miss you. So get back soon as possible. Let's see. Shout out to Sean Clinton. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, it was just from the jump, man. They were physical. They were aggressive. AD was just down in the paint. I mean, I'll probably say he got most of his points down in the paint. He was 0 for 3 from the 3, 7 for 17. But he was in the paint all day. Rondo had 19. When was the last time Rondo had 3 threes in a game? This game was not going any other way. And like we all said, we didn't see this game going 7, because if it went 7, that's going to give Miami a little bit more momentum.
Yeah. And then another thing, like we talked about in the last one, the Lakers bench had to step up, and tonight it was just Rondo stepping up on the Lakers bench. I mean, he scored 19, like you said, 19 points. Before I turned the game on, they were like, Rondo's got 11 already. I was like, oh man, is he starting? I thought maybe he started or whatever. But no, he came off the bench and did what Rondo does. We said it. Playoff Rondo balled out. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to take my experience. I'm going to do what I do, keep everybody involved, control the pace, control the game. And the one thing the Lakers did tonight, they were running. Like, they would get the rebound or a block shot, and they're down the court. Like, they're running. LeBron's running, Rondo's running, Caruso's running, whoever it was, AD. They just kept fast breaking. They kept trying to put the pressure on Miami. And Miami, they just, I don't know what it was. They just kind of, once it got ballooned to 28 points, they seemed like they just said, you know what, we're not going to be able to come back. It reminded me when the Lakers and the Celtics played with KG and Ray Allen and all those guys, and they blew out. They blew them out. They blew out the Kobe Lakers by 40. But the Celtics said, we're gonna just get right into them. We're gonna be physical. The Lakers did that same thing to Miami this time, and I mean, they did what they had to do, and you could tell, like I said, they were laser focused. LeBron was laser focused. Rondo was laser focused. AD was laser focused, and they got their 17th championship in their history. So, respect to the Lakers.
Yeah. It's this and they were up by 28?
Yeah,
by 28 at the half, the second largest lead since that was 85. I think they said that was Celtics Lakers.
Yeah.
Shout out to DJ Jam and Jackie. Thank you for tuning in. She was our winner for the giveaway of this month, so you'll be getting your gift card soon. But Ty, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I wanted to add on. On Friday we talked about when Miami won, and we said, hey, like, Miami squeaked this one out, but one thing that they got killed on was fast break points. Right? I said they got killed on a fast break point. I said, and if they want to win Game 6. They're going to have to cut down those fast break points. And as Courtney just pointed out, the Lakers was just running. Every missed shot, they were leaking out. Anthony Davis was running out. There was one play, and it was a beautiful play, but it just showed just how demoralized Miami was at that point. And I believe I think LeBron got the rebound. LeBron threw a cross-court pass to Anthony Davis, who was already down court in the post. He catches the ball, but he doesn't really have a shot. 3 people jumps Anthony Davis. He dumps it back, and it's a layup, right? And it's just you just did all that to just give up a layup that quick, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, And those type of plays are demoralizing when you work for 20 seconds on offense to get a shot and miss, and somebody comes to score in 5 seconds. That is demoralizing. So,
that's horrible.
They have to learn. They're gonna have to do better with that, And I think the Lakers did a lot of that this season. With their versatility. As I told people, the way that the Lakers were built, and with Anthony Davis gives you a totally different way to play basketball because he's a big who can get in the paint. He can score around the bucket, but he can also step out and shoot. He's also a decent passer. He does a bunch of different things. So it gives you different looks. He can run up and down the floor. So the Lakers was able to play multiple styles of basketball this year, right? They were able to go down, and if they wanted to play the half-court game, they could play the half-court game with Rondo at the point and Anthony Davis playing in the paint and LeBron James getting down in the paint. You know, they could play that type of style. Or they can run up and down the court full speed. Or they could shoot the ball. They could play any type of basketball style for any type of team that they met this season. And like I said, I thought the only team that really had a good chance of beating them, who I really would have, took to beat them, was the Clippers. That was the only team I thought had a good chance, and that was because of their perimeter defense. But once the Clippers fell off, I was like, oh yeah, this is the Lakers' ship to lose at this point.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Clinton says hitting twos with the strong inside game, didn't settle for cheap threes. I think that's a good point too. They were, they weren't focused on just standing outside, which partly that's a lot of what the NBA game is right now. You stand on the outside and you shoot your wide open threes if you got a shot. LeBron had 1. Danny Green had 3. KCP had 2. Morris had 1. Dwight Howard had 1. And then Rondo had 3. So, I mean, they weren't focused on that. And I think that's a great point there, because when you're trying to win a game, like threes, unless you got wide open and unless it's in a great position and a great opportunity, you need to get the high percentage shot, which is not always a 3-pointer.
Yeah, and the Lakers showed a lot of balance too. And we talked about this from the last game. The balance of the Lakers. Anthony Davis was 19 and 15. LeBron had a triple-double, 28, 14, and 10. Danny Green had 11, so he redeemed himself, with 11 hitting 3 threes. Caldwell Pope, your boy KCP, 17. Right. That was big. He came big, played major minutes. And then Rondo with 19. So the Lakers balance, they got the balance that they needed to win this game. And said they jumped on Miami quickly. And just to go over Miami, what they did, I mean, they didn't get the production that they had in Game 5. Bam Adebayo had an unbelievable game, 25 and 10. But Jimmy wasn't as aggressive, as he was throughout the series. He only had 12. Crowder had 12, and Duncan Rouse had 10, but they shot bad from the field. Tyler Hero was 3 for 10. And, so the Lakers they willed their way to get this win, and they played championship basketball. It's funny that they got all these guys that now's got multiple rings. The experience, Rondo with 2, LeBron's got his 4th ring. You got Quinn Cook. He's got a couple now, JaVale McGee's got a couple. Danny Green's got 3. So they had the experience, and it just showed that that experience kicked in, and they said Rondo and LeBron, who's been through it, said we're not going to let these guys lose, and that the spirit of Kobe, Kobe was with him, especially tonight. He was with him. They was like, we're not losing this series. We're not going to lose this game. We're not going to go to a game 7 where we could potentially lose the series. So yeah, they took care of business. Yeah.
They weren't allowing anything to happen or slip out of their hands. Let me see. We got some other comments. Transition killed Miami. We talked about that. Fast break points. Where was Miami's heart? Is a question from
they left it in a hotel room.
Yeah, they ready to go home. Miami ready to go home. They said we're done with this bubble.
Jimmy had 12. This is not like any other game that Jimmy's had this entire series. Tyler Hero had 7, and Crowder had 12, and Bam had 25. Bam was the highest, scorer on the team. Lakers did struggle in half court this series, but yeah, this game was different than all the other games. I think it was one game that they went up early, but Miami was able to get back in this game. But when they hit 30, I think they were up at 30 at one point. I'm like, yeah, this is over. I mean, it would be a miracle, and I'm talking about like a real miracle, like walking on water type miracle for them to come back. Let me see. Terrence says, I don't want anyone to say there should be an asterisk next to this NBA championship. And that's a good question. Let's talk about that. I don't think there should be, because this is one of the hardest situations to win one. You don't have any fans. You don't have your family. If something happens, imagine if something happened to one of their family members. You got to leave, but it's just one of those like weird situations where you don't have the normal NBA season. You see what happened to Paul George, and it kind of affected his mental. It could have happened to a lot of other players. So I don't think there should be an asterisk. What do you say, Courtney? I'll go to you.
Nah, it shouldn't be an asterisk. I mean, these guys, they earned it. Like, it still was a playoff atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Right.
They went through. They beat Portland in 5. They beat the Houston Rockets in 5. The Lakers did. They beat Denver in 5, and then they just beat Miami in 6. So these guys were playing hard, no matter the circumstances. All these teams, they were there in the bubble. They came in the bubble, and yeah, it was definitely a different circumstance of situation, but these guys were playing hard. You can tell once the bubble started, the competitive juices was all throughout. I mean, look at from way back when Portland was fighting for their playoff spot for the 8th seed. These guys was like balling, like Dame, and then was like, we're gonna try to get into this in this playoff. So no, I don't. It's definitely not an asterisk. The Lakers earned it. Miami playing their way to the championship, to the NBA Finals. They earned it getting there, and they beat Milwaukee. They beat Boston. So it's definitely not an asterisk. It's a different type of championship, but it's still a chance. To me, it's still a championship.
Yeah, I think it would be unfair to them to put an asterisk. But Ty,
I mean, nah, it's not an asterisk. I mean, come on. I mean, it's still a chip. The chip is a chip. Now, I definitely think that the circumstances are different. I think the circumstances play more to a veteran team than anything. But I mean, a chip is a chip. You still got to play the games. There was no travel this year, so you just walk. They switched it from 3 days to 2 days. You don't have to travel. You don't have the fans there to kind of get the momentum. You don't have the home court advantage. Those things do help teams out. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like I said, you got to put the ball in the hoop. You know what I'm saying? You got to put the ball in the hoop. It's about coaching. I think, if anything, it made coaching a lot harder. You had to think about your rotations a little bit more because I said, you have that guy like, JaVale McGee who plays well when he's energized. You know what I'm saying? And you get that energy from the crowd. You know what I'm saying? So he's one of them guys who feeds off the energy from the crowd, and there's no crowd there. So that's the guy that's not going to technically perform as good as he normally would, type thing. So you have those elements there. But nah, there's no asterisks. I mean, the Lakers, they won the chip. They won the chip. They beat who they were supposed to beat. They beat who was in front of them. And you gotta give them they props. Now, next year it'll be interesting to see because the season is gonna, there's a quick turnaround on the season. I feel like there's a quick turnaround. You're looking at the draft coming next month, I believe. And they're trying to start the season in late December, early January, and they're trying to do an 82-game season. So this is going to be real interesting to see how this unfolds. But you're not going to be able to scout the way you want to scout players and things like that. Free agency, like everything's going to be affected. So I think next year is really where you're going to see like the difference. And then see like who can really like put it together. Are the Lakers still going to be there? I think the Lakers end up making a move for another player to add to that squad, a legit, somebody real legit. So they're I mean, because you have to look at it too, like you got there and you won, but you weren't really. I mean, you got there early. I think that the West is a lot better than what was portrayed.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, because of the bubble, you had a lot of stuff that just happened. Portland, they still had some injuries. I think if Portland is healthy, they give the Lakers a better game. I think that if Denver, had their full squad, they give you a better game too. You know what I'm saying? I also think, Houston just I don't know what's up with Houston, but Houston's just,
Yeah.
Houston couldn't get it together. And it's a lot of talent in the West. So I think the Lakers are going to go look for that. They're going to get that third player, right? They don't have that third player yet. They're going to get that third player this summer, or not even this summer, this fall.
This fall, yeah.
It's funny to say that this winter.
This winter, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. We're not even talking about summer off season. We're talking about winter. And I don't know if you mentioned, but they're talking about playing through the Olympics. So you think of the way the season's going to go, it's going to be extremely interesting. The fat lady was singing in the third period, says Overton Claiborne. I agree with you, man. It was a wrap at halftime. If you're up almost by 30, how demoralizing is that? I don't care who you are, you got to be a little bit, shocked for that to happen the way it did. I don't care what type of motivational speech that Spoelstra could have gave them. Still, being down by that many points is difficult. Let me give a shout out to Neil, my man Neil's story to tell. He said, my feelings are hurt. Wanted the Heat to win, but they were outplayed tonight. Yeah, and you're right. And I think it was, who was it? Was it Jalen that said they're just different? It's a different beast with this Lakers team. When they're 100% on, which they were tonight, nobody's beating them.
Yeah, Jalen was right. I mean, they were focused, like we said, from the beginning. And once I started seeing them when they were locking on defense, like Anthony Davis was all over the place, man. I mean, he was altering shots, he was blocking shots, and once they get locked in, Rondo's locked in, and LeBron and all those guys are locked. Caruso, and that was a good move putting Caruso in the starting lineup over Dwight Howard, because now it forced Miami. I mean, the Lakers, they got the advantage, as Tyon said, they got the advantage of playing big, they got the advantage of playing small, they can play in half court, they run in the floor, the transition points. The Lakers are tough to beat, and they ran through everybody who was in front of them. So yeah, there's no asterisk either. They beat all the teams that, as I said, it was still competitive playoffs. And guys were still playing. You would think James Harden wouldn't want to be in no championship. This guy he wanted to go to the finals. Denver wanted to go to the finals. Portland, Dame was like, look, we balling. Like we don't care who's in front of us. We want to go to the championship. But the Lakers and their experience was definitely key in this whole bubble series, in this whole bubble season. And it was a great playoffs. No, zero COVID cases. We have to, gotta say that what they did for the social injustices and speaking about that, they protested. They missed some games in the protests. I mean, all these things are happening, and it was huge. I mean, it was big, and all the free speech and everything that they're doing, and all the work that they've done going into the bubble and now outside of the bubble. I thought it was an amazing end of the season.
Yeah, it was a great one. Neil says people still going to say something just like they did with the lockout season with the Spurs. People are always going to talk, but the fact is none of these guys, including us, was out there playing on the floor. So we can talk all we want. They just did a little montage. They had Kobe, James Worthy, Kareem, and definitely for Kobe, man. They weren't losing this, I think, for that specific reason. Added on with AD wanting to get one and all that. But you just think of, they said they didn't want to let, AD was saying he didn't want to let Kobe down. And I think that was a huge part of it. And I think this Lakers team was a great collective group. Like, they all seem to mesh well together. Any team that you got LeBron on, you're going to mesh well together more times out of 10, or else, you're going to get shipped out of there. So I think that there was a lot of great aspects to this Lakers team. When they picked up Rondo, and then when they got the AD trade done, I figured that this is going to be it. They were going to be in the finals, if not in the finals, but in the Western Conference Finals. And, they delivered. They won tonight. They delivered.
Yeah.
Danny Green. So here's the breakdown. Danny Green got his third ring with his third different team. Wow. I just realized that. Toronto, Spurs, and now Lakers. Rondo got his second ring. JaVale McGee got his third. Mr. Shaq and the Fool got his third ring tonight. Caruso got his ring, which that was a good move. And I was joking, you switched Caruso. That headline that popped up, I was like, you're gonna start Russo, but you're not starting Dwight Howard. Like that didn't add up. But it was a good move. Caruso is one of those physical players. We've been talking about him the whole series. He's not gonna be focused on scoring. He's gonna be focused on hustling, getting those hustle points, playing D, and that's the biggest thing about Caruso.
Yeah, the Lakers just had an interesting dynamic of a team, the skill sets of the players, the versatility. They had a lot of good versatility too, because we said like AD can play center, can play the power forward. His position is power forward, but he can play center. He has guard-like skills. LeBron, we know how good of an all-around player he's been his whole career. And then you had the others, as they say. You had the Carusos, you had the Danny Greens, KCPs. You had those guys that they knew their role. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee's. They just had a real good constructed team. And got to give props to Frank Vogel too. Like when the Lakers got him, at least I said, I was like, was he the right move? Like, is Jason Kidd going to be the coach? Is Jason Kidd going to be the coach? But Frank Vogel, got to give him a lot of props. I mean, he did. I mean, he coached well with Indiana when he had that. They had their little run too when they had Paul George and Roy Hibbert back then. So Frank Vogel's not a bad coach. It was like, can he coach LeBron? That was always the question. And he proved that, I can. He had a great coaching staff. He let LeBron be LeBron, and he had Anthony Davis too. I mean, that helps big time having somebody like AD. But he had Jason Kidd on his side with him, and respect to Jeannie Buss too for bringing this team, putting this team together, getting Frank Vogel and just letting the players just play their role, getting J.R. Smith, even though he didn't play hardly in the finals, but J.R. Smith, later in the season, and you said picking up Rondo was a huge move, and it all worked together. They were just a real good team collectively, and when you have LeBron and AD, not too many teams are going to beat them in a 7-game series.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen with those two. Yeah.
I was about to say, the thing about it is like I said, I mentioned the versatility of the team, but one important thing is when you have a coach, having a coach who knows how to delegate roles and getting players who knows how to play those roles, right? So oftentimes what happens is you'll see a team with an immense amount of talent, right? And they won't win, and the reason they won't win is because roles aren't defined, right? People are trying to do stuff they're not supposed to do. People are, etc. This is a Lakers team who had defined role. Your role's defined, right? And so you know who LeBron is. LeBron is your do it all dude. You know what I'm saying? LeBron and AD are your do it all guys. You know what I'm saying? And you have your spot up shooters and Danny Green and KCP. They're also your defenders. You know what I'm saying? You have your Rondo, who's a defender / facilitator. You have you have Morris, the Morris twin. He comes off and he's instant offense. You know what I'm saying? That's his goal. His job is to come in and score. That's it. They want him to come in and score. And the same thing with Kuzma. Kuzma's job is to come in and score. You know what I'm saying? And so when you have those roles defined and everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do, that's when you're able to create a championship caliber team. Doesn't mean you're going to win a championship, but you create a championship caliber team because everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing all the time. So
right. True. Shout out to Cornelius King Coleman. We also got Gene Carlo. He said, like the Clippers, you mean? I don't know if that was a point that you were making. Cornelius said, how much of this Lakers team do y'all think will be back on the roster next year? Great question.
I'm about to say, if he's talking about the Clippers, I am referring to the Clippers as far as like having a bunch of talent and not having defined roles. So that is exactly what it is. Having a bunch of talent, not defined roles. You got to have your roles defined. Otherwise, it's just talent out there playing.
All right, like you're just playing pickup. At that point, you don't have. So let's go ahead and go to the SPO track. I believe that's what the name of this website is. They break down all the free agents, all the people that are going to be coming up. It's going to be interesting to see who all they're going to keep, if they're going to let anyone go. But LeBron, I think LeBron's still on his deal. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say, you said who all do we think will be back on this roster next year? I mean, some key people that we know will be back. Kuzma will be back. You know what I'm saying? Because that's one guy that they've invested into, that they hope will develop and be a third star at some point. So it'll be Kuzma. Of course, you'll have AD. AD is resigning. I don't question that at all. AD is coming back. Of course, LeBron will be there. I think Caruso will be there. Because I think they really like Caruso. His development has been going well. And one person I think they'll bring back is Rondo. I think they will bring back Rondo. Rondo, he's kind of bounced around a little bit over the past couple years, but I think Rondo embraced that role coming off the bench, as well as I think he likes working with young guys. I really do think that he likes mentoring and talking to the young players, and he sees the game a lot differently than a lot of people. So I think it will be great for the Lakers to bring him back. And then, of course, like I said, they're gonna bring some different veterans in. But I think those 5 players you'll see on that roster for sure.
Yeah, and Chris Joyner, thank you for joining. He says, I tried to tell y'all Jimmy Django did knocked out the late show. At the end of the day, we knew it was going to go that way. So let's look at the free agents. AD is going to be there. KCP, the man that I love to hate, that's proved me wrong this series. So I got love for KCP. I need to get a KCP jersey and rock that. But KCP, I don't know if he'll be back. He's getting paid $8 million, this year. To me, you could fill somebody in that role. And Avery Bradley wasn't there during the bubble time. He's also a free agent. JaVale McGee. I think Rondo will be back. And let's see, Dwight Howard. I think you bring Dwight Howard back too. I mean, I don't know what else he would want to do, at this point in his career besides, stick around here. You're gonna win a couple of chips, I think. If you're able to keep some of these guys together. Jared Dudley, he may be even end up retiring. He's 35. Markieff Morris, I think that's an up or down. Deion Waiters and J.R. Smith. So those are the free agents coming up. Courtney, you want to add on to that who you think may be going or leaving?
Yeah, I think most of the roster will be the same. I mean, the main key guys, as Tyon said, I think Rondo will be back. AD definitely. Now, since they won the championship, he's going to probably be a Laker for the rest of his, at least for most of his career. LeBron, like I say, he's still got 2 years left. Caruso, Kuzma, I think that's where you build, right, from those 5 there. All the rest of those guys, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Quinn Cook might be back. The Lakers, they seem like they got to get a little younger. I don't know about Danny Green. I don't know if he'll be back either. So they might have to get some youth, but then they still got to get veterans because that's how they just won. They won with some veterans on their roster. So, like you said earlier, they got to get somebody, maybe another key piece. There was a rumor that they might try to go for somebody big. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Like a big name, like who's gonna be out there, who they can get. But I can see the Lakers bringing back at least half the squad and just go from there and see what they can build with those 5 players I named. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting free agency for fall and winter. Who's going where and everything. So, but right. AD, I know he's the biggest chip, but I think he resigns for like 5 years.
Yeah. I know you see that comment, Ty.
That ain't happening. You can go ahead and get that one. That's a pipe dream right there, brother. That's a pipe dream. Draymond Green is not going to the Lakers. So that's a pipe dream. But as you stated, they'll more than likely retool. They'll get some veteran players. They'll get a lot of veteran players. You mentioned KCP making $8 million. $8 million isn't a lot. $8 million isn't a lot for a player who did what he did, which is really, like I said, play defense, take shots, take some tough shots. And he's low maintenance. He's not a guy who complains or wants the ball 20 times, etc. He's a guy who knows his role. So when you look at that, I mean, you try to find people who you can put in those situations and use just as that way. So, you look at who's out there, free agency, there's a bunch of guys who you can get. Montrezl Harrell is a free agent. That might be somebody that they look at. Of course, like I said, you got to pay Anthony Davis that max money, so he's getting paid next year. And then once you do that, you got 2 players on max contracts already, so you have to figure out how to get that roster filled out. And so you're going to look for some players you can get for discount that could contribute, play those same roles, hit some jump shots, rebound, things like that. But like I said, Montrezl Harrell, I'll look at that. I also look at the Lakers possibly trying to trade, like I said, trade for a name, for a good player, maybe a veteran player who's on a contract that maybe isn't favorable to a team, but the Lakers will be willing to absorb that contract, So, one person I thought about immediately was Kevin Love. A guy who can stretch the floor, who can rebound, who's a great passer too. And you can play Anthony Davis played the center position a little bit in the playoffs. He doesn't really want to play the center position all season, but I think the way the Lakers play, he isn't really going to be playing the center position, even though he might be listed as a center. He'll be playing inside out. They'll put Love in the blocks a little bit more if they can get Love, and that might be a good piece for them to get. There's some other names out there. They talk about trying to go get Dame, trying to go get Bradley Beal. The problem with that is you don't have what you need to trade for any of those guys. Right. You don't. Bradley Beal is going to. You look at the Paul George trade, Bradley Beal is going to get somewhere close to that as well. You ain't got that in LA. So, so it's going to be hard to trade for a big name, like a young big name player, but you might be able to go get a veteran player who's on a bad contract, or a team might feel they're on a bad contract and they just want to get rid of them. So you can look at the Lakers trying to do something like that.
And just to add to that, you were talking about KCP. He made money a couple of years ago. I think he was making like 12 to 15 million. Everybody's like, "What? Why is this guy getting so much money?" So he's then, he re-signed for 1 year, $8 million. He earned his money. He earned it in the finals.
That's true.
This season. So he's going to get some pay. And I was just looking at some of the free agency. You can get a guy like, Serge Ibaka's a free agent. Carmelo Anthony's a free agent. I think he stays in Portland though. Aaron Baines, Derek Favors, Marcus Gasol. If they lose JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, Marcus Gasol, he's already won a championship. He's still a decent caliber player. This is just some names: Tamar Wade Jr., Joe Harris, Paul Millsap. These are just some of the role players that are. DeMarcus Cousins' name still out there. Jeff Teague, Bobby Portis, Hassan Whiteside. So some of these names, like those type of names, I know the Lakers are going to be looking at veteran type players that can fit in their system and play around AD and LeBron for the next couple of years. Because I think LeBron's got 2 years left. And he's going to try to, LeBron's going to try. He's got his 4th now. He's going to try to win. He's going to want to get 6 to tie Jordan. That's going to be the motivation now. It's like, I got my 4th. I got my workhorse in AD for the next few years. Let me see if I can get another one and another one. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting what type of season the 2020 and 2021 is going to bring next year.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was about to say I didn't know if we was going to respond to this comment, because I was going to touch on this comment that Mr. Chris Joyner put up.
Yes.
Because he brought up the Nets. I think GSW is going to be in there next year. I think the Warriors will be there next year. But he brought up the Nets and the Heat, and to be honest, I don't think the Nets or the Heat is going to be in the finals next year. So I don't even think about those teams. I do think I think the Heat got there a year early. Like I said, they were my dark horse team. A lot of talent, but the bubble really helped them out. The bubble helped them out a lot. I don't see them there being in the finals again next year. But I do see them, in the East balling. I think Boston might be that team to come out next year. Okay. That's my pick for next year. I love how, that team is really coming together and development. And they were really figuring it out. And I think with the bubble hitting, that kind of slowed their progression. But man, they got two dogs over there in Tatum and Brown. Man, them two dudes, they're legit. Those two dudes are legit.
Yeah.
And really,
now, I have to say Tatum is getting there to that dog status, but he's still, I don't know, he's still in the middle. I'm not gonna say he's a puppy, but I'm gonna say he's in the middle. But I think next year he's gonna be even more ready.
I think Tatum's a dog too, and I do. Yeah. I mean, he did this season alone. He took his game to another level, and he even said himself, training with Kobe the year before, you saw a little bit of that in him. Yeah, now, can he improve a little? Can he improve a little bit more? Of course, yeah. I mean, but his game is elevated big time. Like he took over for Boston with Kemba struggling. That was Tatum's team, and Tatum really balled out. So I think Tatum definitely is definitely improved a lot over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and see, and I probably have like the craziest opinion about that Celtics team, but I personally feel that Brown is Jaylen Brown is actually the better player. I think he has a better overall game on that team, and he's more important to that team than Jason Tatum. Even though Jason Tatum is the X factor, I think Jason Tatum is your leader of your team. But I think Jaylen Brown defensively, I think he's an elite defender. Offensively, he can do everything on the floor. And that year when Kyrie was there, he stepped back, but once Kyrie left, his game just went to a whole nother level. And so I think with them two and Kemba trying to finally figure it out, because like I said, Kemba got in a groove, and then that bubble hit, and then Kemba just never got back in that groove like he was early in the season. I think them three, and I don't know what's gonna happen with Gordon Hayward. I think Gordon Hayward is almost like the odd man out, but them three, Tatum, Brown, and Walker, with Marcus Smart coming off the bench, I think they can make some noise. They can legit make it to the finals.
Yeah, and I think Gordon is the odd man out. I think at this point, I think it was great. Obviously, you got great intentions. The guy was a big free agent, but I just don't think he gels well with the team. Or it's like I don't even know if he really knows, what his role is, on this team. Look, we got another question. What about JJ Redick? Decent shooter. I think JJ would be nice. Be nice for that for the Lakers if they want to pick him up toward the end of his career. He doesn't have a championship.
Is he a free agent?
Let's see.
I thought he signed with New Orleans for a couple years.
Yeah, he's not a free agent.
He's not. Okay. So that may have to be a more of a trade scenario, type situation. Oh, okay. Hold on. Hold on. Look, I got to say this. Caruso is there. I'm watching NBA TV. Caruso is up there with his shirt off, with the goggles.
Like J.R. Smith.
Yeah. Hey, man, live it up, Caruso. Live it up. You just won a championship.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some good players on the market. Like I said, the issues with that is, when you win a chip, the players that you have on your team typically going to command more money. They're going to command more money. Other teams are going to try to pillage those players, right? So they'll be willing to give a guy like KCP, who played well in the playoffs, who played well in the finals, they'll be willing to give him more than $8 million. Somebody's going to be willing to throw some money at Dwight Howard. He showed that he could still be effective. He was able to work through his injuries this year. He stayed healthy for the most part. That would be another guy who, somebody will throw some money at. McGee, I don't know how McGee is going to feel. He got a ring, but one of the issues and one of the reasons why he didn't re-sign with the Warriors is because he wanted a starting spot, and then here you go again, and he's not starting in the playoffs. So does that become an issue again for him? And does he decide to leave? Because he wants to be a starter and get more money. So you look at those type of things. You say, well, do we, can we get those guys back at a good value? At a good value. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, when you look it through the league, okay, who can I bring in who will be willing to take a pay cut? So, like, I'm looking at, you know, this list that they're putting up, like, you know, Joe Ingles, Jay Crowder, you know, I mean, is Miami going to pay Jay Crowder? I think Miami ends up keeping that team together. You know, I think, you know, but Joe Ingles is an interesting pick. You know, that's an interesting pickup. Do Utah pay him? You know, I think Utah likes him a lot.
I think Utah would want to keep him, you know, to keep that nucleus together.
You know, but, you know, one guy that could be on the outs is Marc Gasol. You know, Marc Gasol didn't really see many minutes in Toronto toward the end of the year. And be real, Marc Gasol don't look like Marc Gasol no more. So that's a guy who, you know, who could easily be like, hey, we'll pay him the vet minimum and get him to come to LA and give us some good minutes. You know, so that could be a guy. You know, like I said, Ibaka could be a guy, but you're gonna have to pay Ibaka. Ibaka is still a really, really good defender. I mean, you know, he still protects the rim at a high level, and he can stretch the floor. So he's still going to be a premium type player. You're going to have to pay him some money. You know, do the Lakers, you know, break the bank for him, you know, open the bank up. And then, you know, one thing that we haven't mentioned is the cap. What is the cap going to look like next year?
What's going to be?
Right.
So that's going to be a situation too where, you know, do you have cap space, you know, and do we have the numbers to actually pay some guys to rebuild this team?
Yeah. We got another comment from Steven. Steven, thank you for tuning in. He's watching on one of the pages I shared it to. He says, how about Giannis? And the amount of money that Giannis is going to want, I don't think the Lakers are not going to be willing to go down that road. AD is their Giannis. What they're going to pay AD is what Giannis is about to get somewhere else or with the Bucks.
But here's the thing: who do you trade for Giannis? You can't sign Giannis straight outright, right? So you would have to make a trade for him.
They got no value.
Trade for him.
They got to
have nothing.
They got no picks.
They got to trade all their rosters. They got to trade everybody and draft picks just to get Giannis.
They have to trade their draft picks for the next 5 years. I don't even know how many they have next year. I know they gave up a lot for AD, so it's no telling what they have, you know, going forward.
It'd be like a Clipper situation where they got rid of so many picks just to get Paul George. It'll have to be one of those type of things. Now, the team that got a lot of draft picks is OKC. They got the draft picks for the next 5 years. So that could be a spot for some guys, you know, they got a lot of draft picks. Boston, I don't know if Boston has as many draft picks as I know someone said in the account. I don't know if they got as many draft picks anymore as they used to have. I know they got a few, but I don't think they got all those loaded picks that they did have before. So, but Boston, like you said, they're gonna be a problem next season, regardless of whoever they still got their core. So they're gonna be a huge problem in the East. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Lakers do and Miami, see what they do in this off season.
Yeah, and so LeBron was the MVP. I thought maybe it was gonna be AD, but AD kind of had 1 or 2 down games, and I think, you know, what LeBron did in the series, you know, he had 30, 14, and 10 tonight. But one comment was that LeBron was saying, I want my respect. And, I mean, I think it's true, though. I mean, his haters, LeBron's got so many haters that's out there. I think he was speaking directly to them, obviously, because it's always like, well, you don't have this, you don't have that. LeBron is LeBron. LeBron's not MJ. LeBron's not Kobe. LeBron is LeBron. But I like what he said. I mean, I think it's, you know, as he gets older, you know, as you can tell, his verbiage, what he says, how he carries himself is different every year that he continues to progress. But that was a question. You know, what do you think about LeBron's statement when he got the MVP?
I mean, it's funny. I think people respect LeBron. Don't get me wrong. I think people respect LeBron. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, when you look at the NBA and just like, you know, what he's did, okay, like, it's really impressive. The Eastern Conference was trash. Let's be real. Eastern Conference was trash. He made it to a bunch of finals in the East. It was trash. He made it to the finals in the West with the bubble year. Like, okay, cool. I respect it. But come on, dog. Like, you didn't play none of the big, like, you had a legit, like, this wasn't a hard road for you to get to the final. Like, I respect it. You beat the teams that came in front of you. The Warriors were not there, who've been in the finals, what, 6 times? 6 times in the past 6 years, right? So you got a year where the Warriors was down. You got a year where Portland got hurt. You got a year where, and every team that you played essentially had injuries. Every team that you played had injuries, and so it's a part of the game. I respect it, but let's not act like you just ran through this gauntlet. All right, you didn't run through a gauntlet. You got it done. I respect it. I love it. LeBron, you got the ring. You did what you were supposed to do, but it wasn't no gauntlet. Okay, it wasn't like even the Warriors. Like, look, even when the Warriors was winning, I was like, you know what? Like, we maybe got one hard team. That year we went 73-9. That OKC team was the best team we played. The first two series was trash. Like, let's be real, they was trash. Nobody was gonna beat them. OKC was the only team that really had a shot. Now, if we would have went through like OKC and like the Spurs or somebody, I'd be like, all right, like you did it. You know what I'm saying? But we didn't do it. So I'm just saying, like, if you ran through all the heavyweights, then kudos. You didn't run through no heavyweights this year, though, man. Like,
but the problem is that the heavyweights wasn't ready. The only heavyweight was the Clippers. That was
and they choked.
That was it. Shout out to the Nuggets. I give the Nuggets a whole bunch of props, but at the beginning of the season, nobody was saying, "Oh, it's going to be the Lakers in Denver," and nobody was saying that. So, of course, the heavyweight that they were supposed to play flopped. And that's the kind of the domino effect of this whole thing. And I was expecting the Bucks to be in the finals just because, like, I expected them to progress from last year. Now, Giannis's injury, but even with Giannis playing, I still don't think they would have made it. So
Miami ran right through them before Giannis's injury. You know what I mean? So, but back to the LeBron, the respect. I think he gets more respect than he doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, he gets respect. There's nothing wrong with being, you're not better than Jordan. Okay, we did that whole Jordan, LeBron. There's nothing wrong with that. You're top, whatever you want to put him on the list, 3, 5, 7, whatever you want to put LeBron on the list.
He's top 3 easily. He's top 3 easily.
Exactly. And on my list, it's Jordan, Kareem, LeBron. That's my top 3 in that order. So there's nothing wrong with LeBron being 3rd, 5th, 2nd, whatever you put him on there. That's respect. You get respect. It's funny when people always say, well, you got LeBron 5th, you got LeBron 3rd. What's wrong with that? Like, you can't, your legacy is cemented. You're not going to surpass Jordan. I'm sorry, you're not. You can win 10 more championships. You're not going to surpass Michael Jordan. Jordan is the GOAT. You know what I mean? So that's it. LeBron is right there. He's in that top 3. And he gets a lot of respect. Yeah, there are some haters. There's those haters that try to compare him to Jordan, but I think it's very disrespectful to compare him to Michael Jordan. So you get your respect. Your legacy is cemented. You can retire today. You're a Hall of Famer, top 3 player of all time. And that's it.
So let's answer this question. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say you are the top small forward in NBA history. Period.
Right.
Yeah. You will set the bar. You have set the bar, and realistically, there will never be another small forward that is like you, more than likely.
Yeah, exactly. Facts. I agree. Now, do you guys think the Lakers will repeat next year? That's from Gene Carlo.
No.
No. It's going to be harder. It's going to be much harder.
It is going to be harder next year. It is going to be harder next year. But I think, yes, I think they can. Any team with these 2 guys on the team, that already gives you an advantage over, I think, probably half of the conference. Now, yes, Portland's going to be better. Portland's going to be back. Yes, Golden State's going to be back, which I would love to see. I would love to see Golden State and the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I would love to see that, by the way. But who knows? The Clippers may bounce back. Whoever their coach is going to be and how that's going to work out.
Ty Lue.
Yeah. I think Chris Joyner, he said T, maybe he's talking to you, Tyan, stop moving the bar.
Hey,
that's a good one.
Stop moving the bar.
Man, I'm not moving the bar, brother. Look, I love LeBron. I think LeBron is a monster every day, all day. And like I said, he's top 3 in my book. Arguably top 2. Like I said, I got Jordan number 1. And the reason I got Jordan number 1 is because when he reached the peak, he dominated, he won. Right? Like LeBron has reached his peak. He hasn't won every time though. Jordan literally won every time. It was over. Once Jordan took over the league, there was nobody that can touch him. Period. And that's what puts him over the top for me. In that short span of time, he made the playoffs almost every year of his career, but once he got over the hump, once they beat Detroit, nobody could beat Jordan. Nobody. So that's what puts him over the top for me. LeBron is a great player. And even still, like, the crazy part is, as good as LeBron is, he still has holes in his game. Like, he's still, he's a great player, even with still holes in his game. You know what I'm saying? But it's LeBron, like I said, Kareem and Jordan. You can flip-flop those any way you want to. Somebody will put LeBron first and put Jordan second. Somebody will put Kareem first and put Mike second and LeBron third. You can flip those any way you want to. But they are the top 3 players, I think, in NBA history.
Yep. Courtney, we got your guy in here. Jameis Jeter. He said it's 3 goats. MJ, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and LeBron James. And he said in that order, just to make sure that we
in that order.
That's what I said too. That's the order right there. MJ, Kareem, and LeBron. And I know Chris Joyner said we're the haters because I had said there are some haters. I was like, we're not hating. It's like LeBron's top 3. Like, how is that hating? Like this, we're saying he's top 3 of all time. Like, there's no hate. Just because we don't have number 1 doesn't mean we're hating that he's not one of the greatest of all time. It's like when we don't say, like, some people say like Kobe's number 1. When we don't say Kobe's number 1, oh, we're hating on Kobe. We got him in the top 10 or whatever. You got Kobe on your list. You know what I mean? There's no shame in having somebody that's not better than Jordan at 3rd, 5th, 7th. I mean, Magic Johnson's one of my favorite players of all time. I got him in the top 5 on my list, top 5, top 6. That don't mean that he wasn't great. He's just one of the greatest players of all time. He's just not the greatest. So that's.
Cornelius hit a good point here. I've always said, for me, the only way Bron can surpass MJ is if his finals record reaches 50%. It's a great point.
I mean, that's fair.
Right now, what is it, 4-8? Right now,
he's 4 and 6.
4 and 6.
4 and 6.
Yeah, 4 and 6.
So, and I definitely think he can get. I definitely think he can get 2 more, and that would even it up at that point. But either way, this is a constant conversation that's always going to happen. I think he's great. I think we just got to leave it at that and know that wherever you decide to put him, he's great and everything that he's done. Lakers repeating as champs next year. Yes. I know you were going to say that.
Right.
Damon says the Lakers will not repeat unless they get the right supporting cast. Eric Gordon, that's a good name. Keep Dwight, Rondo, bring in a shooter and a 3-and-D wing. But it would take a lot for all of that to happen, which is why I say they will not repeat. That's a great point. Let's see. Jordan was a great player, and people will highlight that, but they will give him a pass because being the worst NBA owner. Let's talk about that.
Well, NBA owner ain't got nothing to do with on the court, though. That's a whole different thing. Hey, he's a terrible executive.
Right.
Yeah,
players don't always translate to ownership or GMs. It don't always work out that way. But he is still Jordan. He's still the same Jordan every single day, all day, like he was 10 years ago.
Even
so he's gonna do everything he can to still be the best owner, even though he does suck at it.
Even 20 years removed from the NBA, Jordan's still the GOAT to a lot of people. And when Jordan was at his peak, like, Tyon said earlier, there was nobody was even close. There was no question Jordan was the best player in that era, that time frame. There was no question. There was no Reggie Miller. There was no Magic Johnson. There was nobody in Jordan's league when he was at the peak of his powers. And then he retired, came back, played baseball, won 3 more championships, and being the best player on those 3 championships. So I mean, like I said, I don't think LeBron can ever pass Jordan, but like I said, he got him in the top 3. There's nothing we can. For me, there's nothing that can for LeBron to surpass MJ as the GOAT of all time.
And Chris Joyner, you're right. It's impossible to have a GOAT in the NBA. It's true. There is GOATs in different eras. There's Bill Russell. I never seen Bill Russell play, but I know the dude had 11 championships for a reason.
In 13 years.
Was also great. Like, so all of this stuff is perspective. None of this stuff is that you can't look it up on a website and then it's going to say these is what the list is. It's all perspective and what you think. It's all your personal choice, and decision. So that's all it comes down to. Giancarlo, so if LBJ coaches and wins a championship as a coach, will he be the best?
No, that has nothing to do with
it. Coaching, executive, nothing. It's all what you do on the court as a player.
Oh my God!
Shout out to my man PG, my man Patrick Glenn. He said Jordan, great GOAT, the greatest of all time. This ain't got nothing to do with the game.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly.
Let's answer this question. Do you guys think there will ever be a time where most of the old school great are pushed out of the top 5 or top 10 all time? I kind of like what I said. Yes, because Tyon's sons are not going to think LeBron James is the GOAT. They're going to think whoever is coming through during that era. Just like Kobe fans may not really know that much about Jordan. It just goes along through, honestly, through the progression.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think that the top 10, it always change. Like, everybody's list is different. It can always change because you got guys like Kevin Durant. Like, can he move up to the top 10? Possibly. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Steph Curry. Why not? He can possibly move to the top 10. They can continue to keep progressing. So, yeah, guys can always get pushed out of the top 10 list of all time. So, yeah, they can always – this is different eras. Like you said, you got people that – Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, all these guys. You got Larry Bird, you got Magic in a different era. And then you have Jordan in a different era. And then you have other guys like Tim Duncan, Kobe. I mean, it can always change.
I was about to say,
go ahead.
At one point, right, like Charles Barkley was considered like a top 10, top 15 player, right? And nobody says that now, right? Like, because there's so many, power forwards that have came after him, like Tim Duncan, and, Kevin Garnett and Dirk Nowitzki, like, that are, that people argue are better than Charles Barkley, so eventually old guys do get pushed out, as the game progresses, we see more skilled players, like I said, we never saw a player like LeBron. You know what I'm saying? The closest player we saw to LeBron was Magic Johnson, right? With his ability, with his size, his ability to pass. You know what I'm saying? But Magic wasn't the scorer that LeBron was, or is. You know what I'm saying? He also wasn't the defender that LeBron is. You know what I'm saying? So we're consistently seeing like the game evolve and players evolve. You know what I'm saying? But again, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people still have a guy like Mike at number 1 or a guy like Kareem at number 1 is because we haven't seen those players since, right? We have not seen a player like Michael Jordan since, right? Kobe was the closest to it. He wasn't Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? We've not seen a player like Kareem at all, right? Kareem was like one of the best big men that we've seen. The closest we've probably seen to Kareem, is maybe, offensively and defensively is maybe Hakeem Olajuwon, who was probably a better passer, than Kareem, but we haven't seen those players. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they're still there.
Yeah. So I wanted to point something out. We had LeBron wins his 4th Finals MVP, and only Michael Jordan has more. So that's another one of those. He can put in the trophy case. I think he's, and at the end of the day, if he's happy with his career, that's all that matters. Like what I say, what Courtney says, what Tyan says, none of that really matters. As long as he's happy with what he's done, and which I think he is, and I think that's all that really matters. Steven put a comment in there. Definitely, I'll get with you. We can talk about it. We would definitely be interested in hearing. Now, Cornelius is giving us this is a tough question right here because going by errors, who draw greats per each error, and I think that's definitely a loaded question. But I mean, we can try to answer that. I think if you go back to the 80s, I think you definitely got to put Kareem in there. If you go 70s, I was born in 1982, so honestly, I don't know. I would probably have to say Bill Russell or Wilt. If you go into the 90s, it's Jordan. If you go into the 2000s, well, if you go 2000 to 2010, I think you got to put Kobe, and then 2010 to 2020, I think you got to put LeBron. So that's what I would say.
But see that I mean, but even that's hard, right? Like,
yeah.
Because just like you named all those people, right? I mean, as you named all those people, I'm thinking like, okay, like the 80s. Who was the best in the 80s? And I'm thinking, I mean, Larry Bird was a monster. Larry Bird was a monster in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? And even though, the Lakers, I think the Lakers went to the finals 9 times in the 80s, right? They went to the finals 9 times, right? They got beat by Larry Bird a couple of those times, So, and you think about that Lakers team had five Hall of Famers? 5 Hall of Famers, and to think that Bird beat that team, Bird did, like that's amazing in itself. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to pick like heirs, Magic, of course, Magic, Bird, and Kareem were probably the best in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? In the 90s, but in the 90s, it was a clear-cut consensus in the 90s who was the best player, right? That is Jordan. In the 90s, that was Jordan's era, period. There was nobody that touched him. You know what I'm saying? In the 80s, you could argue. In the 2000s, I said you mentioned Kobe Bryant. Some people might argue Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan got a ring almost every other year during the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So, it's hard to call those errors, and like I said, LeBron, from 2010 on, I mean, he has arguably been the best player, but it's hard calling just like an error, like who was the best in this era. The only clear-cut guy that I can say was the best in any era was, like I said, in the 90s, there was nobody that touched Jordan. No. When Jordan started dominating, it was over. That was it. He dominated until he retired in 98.
And the fact is, the minute that he stepped in a finals, there was no question. It wasn't like maybe this other team can win. It was always like, what type of way are the Bulls going to slice and dice this team? That's what I remember growing up. When we were watching it, there was no moments I can remember where I'm stressed out, oh no, Jordan may not win this one. I mean, that one series, the only one I can really think of is the one against the Pacers when Reggie Miller was in his prime. That's one of the only time I can really think of that they were on the ropes. You can talk about the Utah series. I mean, there was a lot of different series that they went through, but none of them in my head I can really think of where they were on the ropes and you think, they may not win.
Yeah. And Jordan, as you said, Jordan was the best in the 90s. Like you said, once he got past Detroit, he was the best. There was no question. I mean, you had Barkley, Olajuwon, Karl Malone, Clyde Drexler, Stockton, basically the dream team. And you know what I mean? Those were the best players in that era, but Jordan was above all of those guys. And like you said, 60s, Wilt, Russell. I agree with my man Jameis. Wilt in the 70s, but you got to put Kareem in there too. Kareem was 70s and 80s. So you know what I mean? So he dominated for 2 decades. Magic and Bird in the 80s. You could throw Dr. J in there. Like I said, MJ in the 90s. Kobe Duncan 2000. Can't forget about dominant Shaq in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And then in 2010,
how hard it is, yeah.
Right. 2010, it is LeBron, but you got other players. You still got Curry. You still got other players. Kevin Durant. There's just a lot. It's hard to pick different players and eras. Because if you want to go back to even the 60s and 50s, Bob Cousy, all these other guys, you know what I mean? It's so hard to pick these guys.
Here, let me read a couple comments. Paul Honeywood says Bron has solidified himself as the second best of all time, and only because he isn't 6 for 6 in the finals. That's it. And again, that's all perspective. Magic and Bird in the 80s, says Clinton. And go ahead. What you were gonna say, Ty?
Oh no, I was agreeing. I was like, like he isn't 6 for 6 in the finals. Well, he said that's literally the only thing that I don't think that's the only thing that Jordan has. Because I mean, when I look at both of these players, like, and just as a as a basketball, like, just analyzing basketball, I look at both of these players. I mean, Jordan is still the more skilled player. I mean, I love LeBron, and I think LeBron is a great player, but Jordan is still the more skilled player. Jordan still just was the more fundamental player. I mean, I think the only legit thing that LeBron does better than Jordan skill-wise is pass. That's it. He's bigger than Jordan, and because he's bigger, I think he uses his body a lot. He plays a lot more bully ball. Like, I mean, that's his style, playing bully ball. But skill wise, I still think that Jordan is the more skilled player. I don't. It's hard for me to say that he isn't. Offensively and defensively, he's still the more skilled player.
Right.
And Jameis, the Bulls only had game 7 during their championship run. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Now, in the Pacers series, and it's interesting. A lot of people say Jordan. All he did. He's 6 for 6. That's still a skill. Like, every time he stepped on the floor in the finals, he didn't lose. So I mean, you still got to put that in there. And Jordan was more than just 6 for 6. The killer will, the killer instinct, the killer will to step on somebody's throat and just dominate. Like, you don't have a lot of players that will do that. Just take over a game. He was such a dominant player, physical force, can score at will whenever he wanted to. Jordan was more than 6 for 6. The killer, like I said, the killer instinct itself, you don't have a lot of players, even today, don't have a lot of players that have that. Kobe was the closest to that, having that killer will to do whatever it took. He didn't care if he stepped over a teammate, whatever it took to win. You know what I mean? Jordan had that. So yeah, Jordan to me is the goal. He was just a dominant player on both sides of the floor.
Yeah. I'm going to read this comment by PG, which I think this hits the nail on the head for a lot of fans, is that Jordan was clutch, Kobe was clutch, LeBron I can't say is clutch. I can't say that if there's 8 seconds left. I want him with the ball over MJ and Kobe. Great point. And like you mentioned last what was that? The last game, is that LeBron's gonna make the best pass. He's gonna give you the high percentage shot. If it's not him, he's gonna pass it to somebody else. He's gonna pass it to a Danny Green that bricked. And let me say this before we go any further. Lakers fans or whoever, don't send this dude death threats because he missed a shot in a finals. Come on, man. Yeah. Come on, man. Y'all won. You knew you was gonna win regardless. Like, why you all stressed out about it? But anyway, that's a side note. I had to put that in.
That was cold. That was cold, man.
That was cold. That was real cold. And I like, me and James, like, we used to talk like how you guys, we talk NBA since we were like 10 years old, 10 years old. So we've been best friends for over 30 plus years. And me and him used to always say this. He said this comment is down below. People felt like they were beating for even taking the floor against Mike. Yeah, that's what it was. Jordan put fear in people's hearts when he got on the floor. You game plan to try to stop Michael Jordan, and next thing you know, he drops 50 on you. It's like he dropped 50 on your head. Like, this is what Jordan was. He was such a dangerous scoring weapon. He could score from all over the floor. So yeah, MJ was just dominant, just nasty, man, for real.
Yeah. Paul Honeywood about to put some stats in here. He said LeBron is 12 for 23, MJ 7 for 15, and Kobe is 5 for 22. Y'all do the math.
Okay, so 7 for 15 and 12 for 23 is about the same percentage. But I'm gonna throw this at you right here, right? And this is how I look at it. If either one of those players got the ball in their hands, who do you want taking the shot? And that's all it is. All right. I'm like, who do I want to take the shot? I know that LeBron is gonna make the smart play. I have no issue with that at all. Just like I said, game 5, he drove to the rim, he made the pass out. It was a great pass. But Jordan wouldn't have drove to the rim. Jordan would have hit the mid-range. That's what he would have did. He would have drove hard and hit the mid-range. Kobe would have drove hard and hit the mid-range. Right? Damian Lillard would have pulled the 3. Like,
he said it himself. He would do it.
I mean, that and for me, that is the difference. That is the difference where I'm like, okay, like, look, mano y mano, 1-on-1, Jordan, Kobe, and there's a bunch of other players too, but really Jordan, 1-on-1, Jordan was like, look, you can't guard me, period. I'm not passing it because you cannot guard me. You cannot stop me from getting to where I want. You cannot stop me from getting the shot that I want, period. And that's it. LeBron is going to, like I said, LeBron's going to make the right, LeBron's going to make the smart play. I am fine with that. But that, like I said, that's just me. At the end of the day, I want the ball in my best player's hands. I want him taking the shot. So I thought LeBron should have took that shot game 5. He was cooking. LeBron was cooking. I think he shot 70% that game. LeBron should have took that last shot. He should not have left it to Danny Green. He should not have. That was my opinion. Even though it was a smart play and it was the best play available, I feel like, LeBron, you are cooking. You can make that shot. Make the shot. That's it.
And in that situation, which, man, this has gone completely away from the Lakers winning the championship. But I love it. I want to get y'all on the show too, Jameis and Paul. Get y'all on here one night too. We can talk. But in that particular situation, the hole was so clogged. There was already 5 people there. So I don't even know if LeBron could have. I don't know if he could have really done anything different in that situation. Now, when he passed it to Danny Green, maybe he could have cleared some space. Danny Green could have passed it back to him, if they had time. But in that situation, I don't know what he could have done differently because it was 5 people in the hole just waiting on LeBron because they know that's what he does. They know it's going to be bully ball. So that would be my response. I don't know what he could have done differently in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if I want the ball in somebody's hands, I want MJ. I want the ball in MJ's hands. And it's funny, people always say, well, MJ, he just shot the ball to be clutch. Yeah, and he hit a lot of clutch shots, but he made championship plays too. John Paxson, he hit the shot. That was a play by, Jordan passing it to, and then Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr hit a game-winning shot too for them to win championships. So Jordan can make the right play when he wanted to. And, you want the ball in Michael Jordan's hands because more than likely you always felt like he was not going to miss. And, he missed shots before, but he's had a lot of clutch shots. So, yeah, Jordan was just more clutch than a lot of players.
And I think, Jameis, you make a good point. You always think Mike is going to make every shot. You do. Yeah. I mean, it's just a mental thing that you think about. Paul says, I'm not saying Bron is a better shooter than them, because he's not, but clutch is clutch. What do you say? I got a pic that shows a different angle of that shot. He was literally 10 feet from the goal. I don't know if we're talking about Danny Green or not, but at the end of the day, they won a championship. So it's all over. Like whatever Danny Green did, whatever LeBron did the last game and all of that. But it's always going to be a great conversation. What we see, LeBron actually over dribbled on that play.
Yeah.
Says James.
He did. The timing.
Great comments right here. KCP was actually the open guy with the hot hand in the corner. He should have gotten the ball from Danny Green, but Green's shot was open shot. That's another good point.
Yeah, he missed it. I mean, he short-armed it. He missed it. It happens. Like Danny Green has missed a lot of jump shots. He's made jump shots. It's like you said, he missed it. LeBron even said himself, it wasn't. I don't even look at it that way. He said, I made the right basketball play, and he did, like LeBron always does. He makes the right basketball play, gave it to Danny Green. Danny Green was wide open. Mm-hmm. He missed it. Laker fans were upset for the moment, and then They won the championship. They blew out Miami. They won the championship in game 6. So
right now they're celebrating at home.
They're celebrating with their champagne and everything. So Danny Green got his 3rd championship ring. So hey,
there's plenty of fans on Facebook Live right now and Instagram Live excited and probably throwing champagne at their houses right now. So whatever.
Right.
Terrence says, I'm so happy for Dwight Howard, long time coming. His IG celebration video was amazing. Game 5 is now in the past. Yeah, it's true. And I respect Dwight Howard too. The road that Dwight Howard took to get to this point. I mean, like one of the greatest players in during that time when he was in Orlando. And then when he left Orlando, it's like everything just went it just went left. And then Kobe called him out, and then he went to Atlanta, and then he went to
Houston first. He went to Houston first, then Atlanta.
Then Atlanta.
He played with the Lakers. He played with the Lakers.
I mean, not Memphis. Went to Charlotte.
Yep. Then he was on the Lakers with Steve Nash and Kobe. They was talking about they was going to win the championship. And Kobe looking at this guy like, I don't know if I can win with you, man. You don't take this game serious enough, man. That Steve Nash gets hurt.
But
so yeah.
But you know what was scandalous about that, and I hated that for Dwight Howard. Like you brought that up, man. Dwight Howard actually played good in LA. He played good. Like everybody got hurt that year, and he carried them to that playoffs.
Yeah,
you know,
and he tore his Achilles, right? Kobe tore his Achilles. Kobe tore his Achilles. Yeah, that year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he carried them to that playoffs. Nash was done. He was a shell of himself.
Yeah.
He carried them to the playoffs, man, and they Lakers fans killed him, man. They torched him, man. And he went to Houston, and then it didn't, you know, and then even in Houston, like it just didn't work out. You know, they didn't. You know, him and Harden just didn't work well together. But you know, it's good to see him, you know, kind of get that ring. And as James just pointed out, Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer. He's easily a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I mean, he dominated offensively and defensively for years, especially in Orlando. He carried them to that finals. Oh, guess who he beat to get to the championship? LeBron James. Right? So yeah, you know, he's definitely up there. He's definitely up there.
Yeah, and here's the stat sheet. Got the championship, which he was instrumental in. So you gotta give him his respect there. 8-time NBA All-Star, 2-time third team, 5-time first team, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He also won the gold in 2008 in the Olympics. Also 2-time NBA blocks, 5-time rebounds leader. I mean, he's done a lot. I just think that the transition from Orlando, leaving Orlando to now, it just a lot has happened in between there. But he's still been dominant when he's healthy and when he's ready. He's still a dominant player, which he showed, you know, during this series when they needed him. He showed up. Yeah.
Dwight Howard he's definitely a Hall of Famer. The numbers speak for themselves, and you said he was defensively, he was a monster, man. This guy used to roam the paint. He was a shot blocker. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. So yeah, he should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And Paul just sent me the photo because I know he was. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 people around LeBron, and he's. Yeah, I mean, there's a C. There's a C in front of Danny Green. So, I mean, I get it. LeBron's at the end of the day, LeBron's IQ. When you talk about players that have played with LeBron, what do they talk about? They talk about his basketball IQ, and what he does on the floor is different than anybody, you know, that most of these guys have ever played with. So at the end of the day, he is clutch at the end of the day. Now, and it's all opinion. Who would I want to shoot the shot at the end of the game? It would be MJ or Kobe, just because I've seen them do it so many times that it's ingrained in my brain that's who I would trust. Now, LeBron has done it too, but I just trust him a little bit more. You know, and at the end of the day, it's just opinion. So,
how about LeBron passing LeBron make the pass to Jordan or Kobe. How about we say that?
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, you make the great play. Jordan and Kobe hit the shot. How about that?
Yeah. But the Lakers are champions, and man, what a run that is unprecedented, a run in the NBA bubble. I mean, like, I'm sure they're ready to get back home to their family. Be able to
I'm
see
on the
their
first
family.
flight out.
Bronny, I'm sure LeBron is ready to see Bronny and have a little sit down talk about that. But LeBron, man, at the end of the day, also LeBron is a stand-up guy. You never hear anything about him doing anything that's rude or that's going to put him in a bad light. He stands up for his people, his Black people. He stands up for the people in his community in Cleveland. I mean, everything that he does is as close as possible to doing the right thing every single time, on the court or off the court. And I think we gotta, all of us respect, LeBron in that aspect, but there's going to be different opinions, and that's just the way sports talk goes. I mean, we all know that.
Yep, definitely.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here, man. We went probably a little about 30 minutes over. We normally been keeping it at an hour. When you get into this GOAT talk, you always know it's gonna get deep. But thank you all those for tuning in. Everybody in the chat room, everybody on YouTube, on Facebook. And this is the last post-game show because this is it.
It's over.
Until January, when we get back to that when we get back to NBA. We'll do a draft show. So stay tuned for that. We'll do an NBA draft show. I think that'll be dope. We can do that right here on the same platform. But Courtney, I know it's late for you, almost midnight.
Yeah. I told you I had to get on these last couple with you guys, man. This is always fun talking sports just in general, but especially the NBA. And can't wait to get into this NBA draft, NBA free agency. Like, we got free agency and draft in November. That's crazy. But but I'm glad to always jump on and talk some sports with you guys, man.
Taco Tuesday is coming up.
Taco Bell,
back home. Him and Bronny and what's his wife Savannah? They all gonna be ready. We're all gonna be ready for them tacos. But Ty, as always, from the car, live from the car. Thank you.
Live from the car today, man. Live from the car, man. We had to get on though. We had to do it. Yeah, definitely. But I appreciate you guys, man. As always, thank you for checking us out. New viewers, thank you for checking us out. Make sure to go to bs3radio.com and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you guys have a great night.
Peace.